somewhere in between of all the truth that must be told and all bullshit that must be solved. In a deep, deep, deep obscurity sleeps human, hey, human, ho, solidarity, solidarity. Oh, wake up and see. Look at them all, look at them all.
We're breaking in an entire new show, basically. It's a new era, a new record coming out in February, so lots of new songs, and it's always interesting to see how they're gonna gel with the classics. It's been gelling really well. A lot of post-punk groove bubbling up to the surface, and kind of the gypsy punk, techno, post-punk era has begun.
Wake up and see. Look at them all, look at them all, pining for.
We don't look for it. It's just, the nature of the band is kind of, it's the personalities of the bands. They're a particular kind of people. They're, I guess you can call them exalted kind. They're very extroverted and introverted at the same time. So, when the band goes between tours, people collect new inspirations and naturally, and then they just share them once we're on tour again together. So that's really the process of it is a synergy of what band members love and turn each other onto. Most recently, Son Paperos, a Mexican punk cumbia band, was with us on first half of this tour. Absolutely maniacal energy, masterfully and very aggressively played marimbas with distorted guitars, and just perhaps the only band I ever seen where the crowd mirrors the energy in a very similar way to Gogol Bordello, where it's just woo, it's just bonkers, buck wild bonanza going on, like nobody knows where the front and back of the house for 2 hours. So that was a good combination.
Oh, wake up and see. Look at them all, look at us all, pining.
People simply move on sometime because they go start a family and have bambinos and things like that, which is understandable. My bambinos is, music, my songs, and the band, and this kind of lifestyle, at least so far. So, I guess, the core membership is there always. It's Sergey, Pedro, and I, and if you really closely look at people that join, it's usually somebody who's been already in a family for many years. Leo just joined a couple years ago, but I produced Leo's first band back in 2003. So I always was aware of his musicianship, and Pedro and him had a project. So, when one person moves on to do something else, another person from the family of musicians chimes in. It's kind of like that. Yeah, it's like there's no ads or active seeking auditions. No, practically never. No, I think once it came down to an audition, but that's an anomaly. Usually when Yuri was leaving, a accordion player who was in the band for a very long time, he found an accordion player that he trained and molded into prepared for the troubles with Gogol Bordello, and so it's kind of like that. It's kind of a torch passing kind of a thing, you know? Yeah.
All of them are lying, and all of the time. Yeah. Lie, 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 lie.
Well, I guess the most accurate way to put it is like, it's like volume on your amplifier, you know? I mean, amplifier has capacity to be on 1 or on 10 or on 12 if, the ambience is right. So it's the same, As I already said, it's exalted kind of people. That word actually kind of, it's really expressive kind of personalities. And, but it would be very naive to assume that that's all these people do is parade around like a bunch of carnies. Yeah, I mean, we look at it as more like pro-gangster carny kind of operation where when it's time to be on 12, then it's time to be on 12. That's usually, it's probably somewhere in the range of 5 to 6. And, yeah, there's not a lot of bands that like have like shots of vodka on sound check, but we do. Most of it is in English, and because I live in New York, and since '97, and in the States since 1990, so my thinking has been long time transferred into English language. Sometimes songs do call for a different kind of melodism and different kind of dynamic, especially in the years of living in Brazil, or in the years of living in Italy, or just traveling. Then you pick up on different melodism and rhythmical structures. And of course, Spanish is so appealing that you just want to sing in Spanish at some point. So I have, but it's not really like a thing to do. I guess once again, it just comes naturally from being exposed to it and naturally picking up on its rhythms. And Pedro being one of my closest friends, his Spanish is pretty much around all the time. Him talking on the phone or to friends. That I mean, we have a lot of. I think somewhere probably about half of our fans in the States, at least, is Spanish speaking people. Yeah. So that was definitely one of the driving forces why I thought that it'd be good to show the gesture of connection and sing back in Spanish. So that's why we did the cover of Mala Vida, the Mano Negra cover, and the Camarón de la Isla, La Leyenda del Tiempo, which is probably my favorite song of all times. Yeah. I was in immigration in Italy, yes, for 1 year, and also, which I loved, and actually almost didn't want to leave, but yes, I was in Brazil for about 6 years, so more like 6.5, yeah, 6.5.
I'm not playing with you, yeah, you. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not very like a scholastic kind of person, so I just kind of like first-hand experience of things, I suppose. Like I never really went to any school, not because I'm opposed to school. I'm just not good at. I can only go to school that I structured. Perhaps it's some kind of a form of something, but my learning style is very much like I can figure something out, maybe crack that case, or I can't, but I have to do it. I can't really like go and take bossa nova lessons. Like I'll never like learn it that way. I can only learn it from hanging out with people who are playing it and maybe pick up from them. Or at least it appeared to me like most infectious and a better way. So, living somewhere, in particular in Brazil, of course, I picked up a lot of, was very curious about how they how their musical brain is wired, and was like really immersed in that scene. Even though it's so complicated, at the end of the day, I'm really much more simple kind of a punk rock kind of a downstrokes kind of person. But I did, try to expand my palette of musicality through learning all this more complicated things.
Oh yeah. Oh, never mind what been said.
I arrived to the States fully soft in just about every kind of punk rock that there was up until then, from the classics and proto-punk like Stooges and Slade and Patti Smith, to classics like Sex Pistols and Clash and The Damned and hardcore and so minimally to hardcore. And I guess the kind of main catalyst of the putting all those things together and seeing as a new era of punk rock was for me a concert of Sonic Youth that happened back in my hometown in Kyiv in Ukraine. That was a kind of a superbly heroic mission that Sonic Youth undertook at that time. It was kind of a time where only for 2 years really were things like that were possible, when Gorbachev it was a really special time where seemed like something could happen in Soviet Union, and then it of course collapsed because nothing can happen in Soviet Union. So yeah, that show was really transformative. People still talk about it in Kyiv because that was like an amalgamation of just about every kind of streak of punk rock all in one band. It was like flipping through a deck of cards through this encyclopedia of with like Velvet Underground to television to to contortions to suicide to just Sex Pistols and everything. Just Glenn Bronca, everything was riding still on that Ramones beat, which was so appealing because a lot of the avant-garde approach just kind of slips into that kind of off the rails tribal beats oftentimes, which is great, but it doesn't go very far. It can't connect with people. That connected really well, and so it kind of became like a vector setting show for me, where I was like, well, I love Joy Division and Gang of Four, but I think what I really want to do is this. So I need to go to New York. And I think that just the importance of that band, importance of the Sonic Youth can never be underestimated, no matter how you slice it and whether you like it or not. It's just something that brought the whole Rubik's Cube together, I went during the war recently twice since the war began. I was going every year before that. Almost every year, depending on how schedule permits. But yeah, I mean, my friends that I was in the bands back in Ukraine before I came here. So, before I came to the States. So I always kept close touch with all the musicians there, and my friends I grew up with. They go on about doing the same thing as we did, most of them, which is art or music or, of course, it's very, very extremely difficult situation it's just a matter of survival now. But people remain to be quite strong and resilient and optimistic, and it's something that is just tremendous, and powerful to see. It's a really example for the rest of the world to get more precise and and about, watching out and protecting your neck. About really, really crazy worldwide tendencies that are taking place, Now is the time to, I'm not just bigging up my old king. I think that it's needless to say that Ukraine demonstrated an extreme resilience and powerful analytics. So get busy, everybody, I do know peripherally about problems with a uniformic kind of approach to punk, and all this kind of scene divisions, but I was perhaps on the outskirts of that discussion, because that was not something that I naturally would get involved to, because I'm a transplant. So, I was always close with people, fun, aesthetically, that like Fugazi, and were incredibly open-minded. Once you hear any tune of Fugazi, will tell you that they're incredibly immersed in worldwide perception and mirroring of all streaks of punk rock, from including fusion and dub, and you can just, it's all sprinkled in there masterfully. So I think that the good example of it not being uniforming, but rather continuing on as a aesthetic that is rather all inclusive, is a punk rock museum that recently opened in Las Vegas. I know, sounds so corny, like Las Vegas is not a good but location for it, Las Vegas. But just the way the history has it is the owners of the idea are Las Vegians, and Fat Mike and No Effects, needless to say. And so, I was first kind of skeptical about it, but once it opened, and I went in there and did a couple tours along with many other musicians, who were enthused about it. So really, really cool punk rockers did tours there, and I kind of took a cue from them. Roger Miret from Agnostic Front was one of my main inspirations, probably all times for sure. And Walter Schraefels from Gorilla Biscuits and Quicksand. And so the way it was laid out was actually so inclusive of all kind of streaks, from proto-punk to international section, and I was asked to actually contribute to that and kind of connect some more dots on that front. So I was able to bring in like artifacts from like Poland and Ukrainian and other Eastern European connections that I have in punk scene. So it's, I think, and the thing is that it ends also, like the exposition of that punk rock museum ends with a kind of a nice room. Nice. Nice. What the fuck I have to do with punk rock? With the exposition of of bands that are basically a new cohort that are saving punk, or not saving, it's too loud of a word, but probably driving it louder than, and preserving it for, in its righteousness. So, bands like Idols and the Viagra Boys and Turnstile and Emil and the Sniffers are featured, which is definitely a newish-esque bunch of bands that are show its vitality of post-punk and art punk and kind of so I think that's a good example that and all my shoes are there and all this kind of things that I will play 1,000 shows in, and a lot of my attire was left there as exponents. artifacts. So, yeah, I think there is a lot of cool things going on with punk rock still, and and I have a label now too, my own label that's kind of focused on continuing the particular New York City kind of a punk rock that was, initiated originally by contortions and Swans and the Sonic Youth, and it continued on with Yes and Interpol and Gogol Bordello. So these are younger cluster of bands and songwriters that are, most of them are born and raised in New York and kind of have that sensibility naturally of spasmodic kind of guitar playing with very noisy transitions but punchy choruses, and a good knack for storytelling. Still have that kind of street grit. That's what we love, so the label is called Casa Gogol. Check it out, it's there for you. Sign up.
Report of stolen gold, and the grandest canyon is between the young and old. But how long can you run a nation on a steady diet of old-timer discrimination? Not for life. What it is, what it is, what is it? Not for life. Can I hear? Not for life. Come on, get on with it. Maybe there's a reason.